Happy New Year, everyone. This is just a brief video to talk a little bit about the year ahead, what I intend to do, and regarding this channel, and just a thanks really for everyone who supported me over the years. I have, as it stands, close to 2,000 subscribers. I may make a more specific video for that. Cumulatively, I've had almost 1 million views on all my videos, and I've also had so many minutes. I don't know what it is, but not minutes, hours, days of watching time. So I'm very grateful for all of that, because if there was no viewership at all, it would be a bit pointless doing this. Now, my channel isn't a big channel. It's not viral. My average video is perhaps 50, 60 views. So I'm getting to the thousands. I don't know quite why that is, because there's no particular trajectory there. For example, I can't say that particular video, well, that got a lot of views because of that reason. There's no real indication why, but some do, and that's always nice to see. And then some get barely any views, maybe 20 views. But the average, I would say, is about 60, which is, it's not viral, it's not massive, but it's still 60 people in the UK or in other countries watching what I have to say. So I'm grateful for that. Um, so going ahead, well, a little bit about the New Year, the idea of New Year. I like New Year's. You know, some people see it as, oh, it's a run of the mill thing. I do like New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. It's actually technically the second now, but um, I do genuinely see it as a way of reflecting and sort of starting afresh. You know, I'm not so naive as to think the 1st of January everything changes. Obviously, that isn't the case either in one's personal life or in what's going on in the world. But nevertheless, I think it's useful. And I do think it's an opportunity for any regrets of the previous year to, on some level, be put to bed. Um, you know, there's obviously major things that you can't just get over quickly, but I'm talking about more minor things. So, yeah, I do see it as an opportunity in that sense. So 2024, we're now in the mid 2020s, I would say. You know, I've always looked at decades. Other people might view it differently, but I would sort of see the first part of a decade. Let's take this decade, for example, to be 2020 to 2023. We could say the early 2020s, 24 to 26, the mid 2020s, and 27 to 29, the late 2020s. Now, I don't know why, but I always use the 90s as a sort of base, a template for looking at how we structure decades. I guess that's because that's the first full decade I lived through. I was born in the mid 80s, but you know, the 90s was the first full decade that I sort of lived through. So I always think of it like, so we're in 24, okay, so I look at 94 and so on. It's hard to explain, but it's just a useful template. I love history, so I sort of look back and think, well, we're now in 24, so what happened exactly 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and so on. Off the top of my head, this year will mark 80 years since the end of the siege of Leningrad, um, 80 years since the Normandy landings. It will mark, let's see, 90 years since the Night of the Long Knives in Germany. Um, what else, just off the top of my head here? Um, let's see. I want to think of more prominent things rather than just like movies that were released in a particular year. Um, 74, so 50 years now since Watergate. There's one. 40 years since Band Aid in 1984, and also the Bhopal disaster in India. And there's positive things too. You could look at like commemorations or jubilees, perhaps, of particular monarchs. So maybe not the best example, but the point is, it's just a useful time to reflect on. Well, that's time. That's, I mean, here's an interesting one: 110 years since the beginning of the First World War in August. 110 years. You know, I remember when I was a child, sort of figured, okay, it's the 80th anniversary of the end of World War One, but now 110 years. Actually, in 2014, when we marked the centenary with my family, my great great uncle, two greats, Adam Craig, died at Passchendaele, and we sort of marked the beginning of World War One with a little vigil for him. We have his picture. But anyway, time is useful in that sense, sort of reflect on things. Yesterday, I watched the New Year's Day concert from Vienna, classical music with my dad. That was a nice, relaxing way to see in a new year. New Year's Eve itself, I always like to sort of tidy some things up and say, okay, that's my last coffee of 23, that's my last shower of 23, etc. Um, and then you see in a fresh new year. My mum has a tradition. I think it's a thing in Northern Ireland where you sort of she opened the door to let out the old year and then bring in the new year. How about yourselves? Does anyone have traditions? I watched the countdown down on TV. Spectacular firework display from the Embankment in London. Of course, around the world. Some cities they always show. They always show Sydney, Auckland, Tokyo, the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. This year, the BBC also showed Nairobi, which is interesting. That's not often shown. I was up at 5 a.m. I'd watched the Dickens ghost story, The Signal Man, with my father, but then I was still up at 5 a.m., so I watched New York City, seeing New Year's, and they had the ghost of John Jacob Astor the Fourth on CNN, which was something a bit different. Um, well, so I watched Ghostbusters 2 the night before. I think superior to the first film. Not everyone would agree, but I think it was, and it's set at New Year's Eve. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Basically, the year ahead, well, that's one thing. I keep saying I'll wrap it up, then my videos go on longer. I may try and make shorter videos. I don't keep New Year's resolutions because they inevitably don't work, but I might try and make my videos a bit shorter where possible. Some videos simply have to be longer because of the content or if I'm reading out sources, that sort of thing. But I may try and make the videos a little bit snappier. I will try my best. But otherwise, I'm more or less going to continue what I'm doing. I'm going to be talking about topical issues. I won't shy away from controversial issues. And I always encourage participation. Leave comments. I can't guarantee that I can get back to everyone, but I try where I can. I will do periodic live streams. And yeah, I may also, some of my older videos, I may delete ones that don't have many views, where the quality isn't great. So I'm going to tidy up the channel a little bit. But anyway, best wishes everyone for the year 2024, whatever you're doing in your personal lives or just generally for the world. I hope some things can improve. In any given year, you have good and bad. I don't believe that any year is all bad or all good. There's always a bit of both happening somewhere in the world. So that's a way to be optimistic about any new year, that it's never all bad. There's always something positive to look at as well, even if it can sometimes seem the news is depressing. But there is always something positive as well. So best wishes everyone for the year ahead, and thanks a lot for your support for my channel.